Hi everyone, I'm Liang Jun. So I'm going to recap a bit on the commission call, which I will talk more about the important part, which is market research. So for y'all, if you all didn't watch this video before, you can actually, I highly suggest you all to actually watch it because it will actually talk more about how we usually map out the whole the persona mapping, so that we can understand the profile, how we actually map it out to suit on the project that we sell to them. So which I think this is just a summary on it. And yeah, I think the biggest reason that actually why we run market research is because on this four part, which is the first thing is to really ensure we have the attraction effectiveness to customize on targeted marketing, which is one of the strategy that we want to focus on this term. And also it's important part to actually for us to actually align the timeline, because we will find out like what is exactly golden timing, because at the end, no matter how you actually delay, if you miss out the timeline, then you might miss out everything. And then also for you to do project innovation, where you can actually innovate together with IGV to map out what is needed so that you can sell more effectively. Lastly, is more the S&D alignment to understand on what you can connect the youth value proposition, and also by understand like how many LI you have and the supply and demand. So how we actually do these things, the thought process should go from first thing first, we should always understand on the youth persona mapping first, because after we understand on the youth demographic, pain and gain, what do they really want? And we only go into IGB alignment and also S&D alignment to understand on what are potential opportunities so that I can do opportunity matching with the youth. And I think this is also crucial when we actually found there's no value that can deliver to the youth, and we actually need to innovate it, or so-called actually find what is the youth really needs, so we can really do alignment. Yeah. And also I think at the same time align the goal with IGE demand, not only on your own local supply but also LR, and also to co-create the value with IGE. And lastly is to customize marketing campaign where you can execute targeted marketing as what I mentioned just now. So overview of the timeline, right? This will look something like this, where right now it's 4th of August. We're going to launch the market research in 5th of August until 20th of August. And this market research will be like a Google form, which will launch nationally to every through our social media platform. So for this part, I think the timeline actually going to follow national side, where I think everyone, you need to spread it out to your social network, to your own community group, so that we can actually get as much response as possible. And then for this timeline, it will actually customize into each entity one. But the one that you need to customize is on the in-depth interview, which is more like after you get the response, you want to get validation, or you want to get more details about why they fill out this survey in this way. So you're going to do interview to understand in depth. But from national side, we suggested for you all to actually do at 9th of August until 20th of August, which I think this is just suggested timeline. And if you really have you have different attraction timeline, we want you to actually cater your interview, like your in-depth interview, your timeline, you map it out by when it need to happen and by when it need to finish, so that you can have enough time to do personal analysis and before you do the campaign. So it's actually, you can customize this timeline according to attraction campaign. And also do take note that there is my ODS happening here, so you won't actually clash with the capacity in the middle. Yeah. So I think before we go into the very technical side, I want to explain about for this part, there is a survey we launched, right, which is the Google form. That one is actually called as quantity research, where we collect solely data that can be processed on and can be applied on mass research with general analysis. So the second part of interview is we want to get qualitative research, where this one is more on the details on what is the things that I want to understand from the thought process on how they fill out the response. For example, you get qualitative is like how, like, what makes you want to join ISAC is more, what makes you want to join volunteer is like, I want to expand network. And then you're not so sure what is the network they want to expand. And you're going to ask them about, okay, so what kind of network you're looking for? They're looking for like international network with ISAC, and you can actually understand more about what is the value exactly. So you can really understand like from like the youth from this market, what are they thinking and how is their thought process. Yeah. And then I think you also need to actually set the goal setting for qualitative research. For quantitative research, I think the goal is already set based on the market size. But for qualitative research, the bottom line from national side is make sure every market you have at least one qualitative response. So I think for this part, I'll show the tracker, which I think you can click inside this link, where you show something like this. So first thing first, this is qualitative research, where this goal, all these things, that how many need to get those qualitative research, right, is based on your market size. So for those LC who haven't actually finalized your market size, for example, those highlighted in yellow, you need to finalize as soon as possible, and then let me or let Julie know as well to make sure you finalize the number so that we can actually get the finalized goal of how many response we expected from your market. Because I think at the end, each uni or each market have different size, and it's not that fair if you actually distribute it equally to every uni. So that's why we actually analyze on market size and to really understand the size that we need, the sample size that we need from each market. And then second thing is you need to put down like the start and the end of the in-depth research date here, so that we will know like whether when you're going to start attraction, and then you cater along like when should the interview happens. And then after that, you put down already, you need to put down like what is the market, like what is the market or what is the faculty that we have in each unit. For example, like you can actually go through all of here, like there's maths and computer science faculty, there's engineering student, there's social science student. So all these things it represent different group of people where you need to get at least one for each, but you want to get two, I think that will be great. So the objective of why we actually make sure every group there is one, because of you want to understand what is the different kind of group and how do they react differently. So you can customize different marketing message that can target to that specific faculty, not just doing mass marketing, but we want to do targeted marketing, because this is one of the issues that we face, one of the bottleneck we face in summer. So yeah, I think for the quantitative research, we're going to launch a survey form. But for qualitative research, we'll have another thing, something like this, where I think this part is more on the research tool that you're going to use it. So first thing first is to, after you actually get those response, right, you need to actually finalize on those hit lists, which is like more on who are the one who actually you choose to interview. After you put down all those details, and then you go into potential lists to understand on, this is all the interview response that you need to fill out. So this is all the question that I put out for you to actually understand further on. And if you want to add more, feel free to do so. And then after that, yeah, I think this one we haven't really updated, but we actually have like a drop list analysis for you. And after that, I think at the end you need to define your focus, because after you interview all of it, it doesn't make sense for you to actually focus everyone, because I will clearly know what are the market they want to focus and what the market works. Because like for example, you have a lot of people, you have opportunity about environment, and if you want to promote that things, you need to focus on, you found out like, and there's environment student or there's this kind of student actually interested in this opportunity, then you actually go and focus on that market. So you're going to finalize everything and then make sure you have those reasoning. And after that, finalize their buyer persona profile, which is like the empathy, is in a way, it's actually from that video is empathy mapping, but it's also for us to actually understand on demographic, understand on all those profiles, so we can actually customize on our marketing message. Lastly, go into the product packaging to understand on how we actually package our product so that it appears that catch the youth attention from that particular group. So this is why we actually need to do market research, not just do because of market research, but we want to do that we can customize or use the content to do targeted marketing. Yeah. So I think that will be the whole thing about market research. So as a very checklist, like as a checklist for all of you all, right? First thing first is to communicate and execute market research, where this research going to launch it probably by tomorrow. So you're going to communicate these things to your team so that your team can actually support on you to launch it. At the same time, you need to spread the survey to all the channels that you have. Yeah. Second thing is that align with your team the goal and deadline, so that your team can do it based on their capacity and based on what is your bottom line. And also do aware that the deadline is 20 for nationally. So build a hit list and start in-depth interview as soon as possible, so you actually won't delay the timeline and delay the interview and delay the attraction. And then lastly is to go through this LC working sheet, which is like just now what I show you in here. The whole entire thing, go through it and then utilize it as well. Yep. So for S&D research, this is the second thing, which is you need to have conversation about S&D already, starting from collecting all those opportunities and timeline that match to understand what's the demand from IGV. So I think this part, even though we haven't really have the youth yet, like the persona yet, it's important for you to actually understand on what are the demand, because right now IGV, they launched an audit already and they should know what are the project and what the scope that they're going to focus on. So yeah, I think that will be it for the market research. And lastly, see you in my audience. That's all.